Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the West Lindsey series. This is one of the 9 districts of Lincolnshire and one of the county's most rural. It has 128 civil parishes. Let's see which one this episode's all about. Welcome back to West Lindsey, everybody. Now, this one is one that's been a thorn in my side for quite a while. I have no idea how much of this I'll be able to film. This is an estate village, and as far as I can tell, I can't access any of it, really. But we're going to find out if we actually can. There's a church to see, which is up this drive here, which I believe is public access, so at least we can get to that. The village itself, so just a collection of houses, is up there beyond that gate, and then apart from that I think that's about it. It's a very small one, but one that we've mentioned a few times before. This is Brocklesby. The West Lindsey series is sponsored by Gainsborough Cycles, 01427 617 752. For all your cycling needs, this is your one-stop shop, located at 20 Ropery Road or online at gainsboroughcycles.com. There's a link in the description. Gainsborough Cycles, ask for Trevor Halstead. And this video is also sponsored by Jamie's Fitness Studio, based on Low Road, Grayingham, near Curtin in Lindsey. Jamie is one busy lady. Check her out by calling 07906 749 574 or emailing hello@jamies.co.uk. Online membership is available. There's a link to her Facebook page in the description. Jamie's Fitness Studio. Get fit, get happy, get healthy. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Hello again, West Lindsey folks. Here's another one which I've been dreading covering. This is Brocklesby, an estate village which sits 5 miles away from the M180 at Junction 5. This is a very private, very under-the-radar kind of place, according to the one and only local I had any interaction with in this episode. And that's 100% true, I can tell you. Brocklesby village is the most northerly within West Lindsey, and by extension, the non-metropolitan county of Lincolnshire. It's quite small, tiny in fact. There's only a handful of residential properties here. However, this is more than made up for by Brocklesby Park, which is enormous and generally private. We've seen parts of it before in places like Great Limber. Speaking of Limber, the parish includes the settlement of Limber Parva, or Little Limber. That lies 1.5 miles to the southwest and contains the site of a deserted medieval village, defined by earthworks. There was also an abbey within the parish boundaries as well. That was Newsham Abbey, which was located to the north of the village in the hamlet of Newsham. For the most part, the estate is primarily agricultural, with a substantial acreage of woodland. There are many listed buildings too, including the Holgate Monument and Brocklesby Hall. Now, I couldn't film much of this, but hopefully I did a good job of what I could. Let's go. We start at the entrance to Brocklesby Park. You can buy eggs from here. That fact is confirmed by this board you'll see at the entrance. They're available from the walled kitchen garden and the estate office on weekdays. Despite that, I was still unsure at this point if I was allowed here, but it would soon become apparent that I was in fact alright. There are some amazing properties in here. Take for example this castellated lodge. The park runs to some 1,000 acres, extending way beyond this area. It and its woodlands were laid out in the 1770s by Capability Brown for Charles Anderson Pelham, the first Baron Yarbrough. The Pelham family still live on the estate, having originally moved to Lincolnshire in 1565. The current Earl of Yarbrough is Charles Pelham, the 8th Earl. Educated at Eton College, he's a British peer and landowner. Finally, a bit of confirmation. Look here. This drive is private, which means where I'm standing must be public. Brilliant. That means everything I've filmed up to now is perfectly legal. Right, let's head for the church, the spire of which you can see over there. The church is a Grade 1 listed building dedicated to All Saints. This was built almost entirely in the 14th century in the decorated style. Here's the Lick Gate. This was erected in memory of Marcus Herbert, the 6th Earl of Yarbrough, and his wife Pamela, both of whom died in the 1960s. Now, speaking of memorials, the church holds many relating to the Pelham family, particularly Charles Sackville Pelham, son of the 4th Earl, who was killed during World War I. In the church is a marble relief in a 17th century style, complementing the adjacent Pelham family tomb of 1629. It depicts Pelham dressed in military uniform, and it was carved by the sculptor Charles Sargent Jagger. His body was never returned to Brocklesby. He's buried in Yarbrough at the town cemetery military extension. Next to the church is this building, a former Sunday school constructed of yellow brick with ashlar dressings and a slate roof. It was built in 1878. Okay, so just beyond the church there's what looks to be a very grand house or hall, not quite sure what that is, and across the road from that there's a gate and there's a sign there that says beware children. Wasn't aware that there was a school on this estate. There might not be, but why else would there be a sign saying beware children? It's very unlikely there's a school here, put it that way. It's too small really. So I'm going to carry on walking down this road, this one here. This effectively brings us back to the start where we came onto the estate. And then after that we'll be heading to the actual village itself of Brocklesby, which is nothing more than just a cluster of houses along one road. So I might actually drive through that. When we get through that, there's a crossroads, we'll turn left, and then there's another area there, it's like a farm, and there's a body of water to see there as well, which is worth mentioning. And to finish this off, we'll be heading for the Earl of Yarbrough Arch, which is right on the border between West Lindsey and North Lincolnshire. So yeah, let's get on with it. That didn't quite go to plan because beyond that point it's private, so I had to turn around. On the way back, I opted to walk through the walled kitchen garden because it was open. As well as eggs, the Brocklesby estate sells logs too, according to its website. The logs are produced from the sustainable woodland on the estate. The estate run guided tours of the walled kitchen garden, led by the head gardener. That's according to Great Limber Parish Council's Facebook page. The head gardener's house is the castellated lodge we saw on the way up, which is built into the wall of the walled garden. How about that for a house, eh? Exiting the park, I briefly looked to the right to see if there was anything of note. This sign advertising Brocklesby Kennels was about all I found. On the opposite corner to the gates is a road sign showing us nearby places. Let's head up into the village now. It's just beyond those white gates in the distance. Brocklesby village is just a collection of houses lining this one road. With no cars behind me, I slowed right down to give you an idea of its size. Houses both here and in surrounding villages are owned by the estate and let to tenants. The estate do own some holiday lets as well. One of those is the impressive Limber Walled House, and I'm championing local business again, folks, because I've linked the advert for that below. So after coming through the village, you end up on this road here if you take a left turn, and if you do so, there's a farm which is over there, and there's also behind this gate, which you're not allowed access to, by the way, because it says no entry. There's a body of water which, according to Google Maps, is called the Canal. So let's talk a bit about this area next. This is the Canal, one of many bodies of water on the estate. It's a formal lake which existed prior to Capability Brown's work at Brocklesby in the late 18th century. Two more lakes, Lambert Hill Pond and Dam Bottom Lake, flow into the canal. There's also Newsham Lake, which is beside the ruins of Newsham Abbey. It was at that point that I spoke to a local who informed me everything else in that area was pretty much off limits for filming. With that in mind, I moved on and found these two lodges, which stand just to the east of this arch, which towers over the B1210, the road to Kirmington. This is the Earl of Yarbrough Triumphal Arch. It marks one of the entry points to Brocklesby Park. Both this and the lodges were built in 1864, and all three are Grade 2 listed structures. On it is an inscription reading, "To Charles Anderson Worsley, 2nd Earl of Yarbrough, his tenants and friends." What a magnificent structure. There are a number of landmarks in the park which are on private land, meaning I couldn't film them. Look no further for starters than Brocklesby Hall. Grade 1 listed, Brocklesby Hall is a large country house which probably dates from the 16th century, but was altered before 1708 and remodelled in around 1730. It was severely fire damaged in 1898 and then restored by the architect Sir Reginald Blomfield. It was reduced in size in the 20th century by the architect Claude Phillimore. The 1898 fire and Phillimore's renovations destroyed most of the original interior features. Not far away from the house is the Holgate Monument. This was created in 1785 by James Wyatt. It's a Grade 1 listed memorial to George Holgate, a close friend of the first Baron Yarbrough. Another building by Wyatt is this garden temple, dedicated to the memory of Arabella of Frere, located in Mausoleum Woods. There's also Newsham Bridge, which passes over Newsham Lake. This was constructed around 1772 and once again is probably the work of Capability Brown. And this is the former Brocklesby railway station. We mentioned this in the Ulsby episode of North Lincolnshire, but I thought it was worth including again. Okay, and that's just about it for Brocklesby. There's not much more I can film, quite frankly, so that's the best I can do. Hopefully that's a good enough episode for this one. As you can see, the arch is right on the border between West Lindsey and North Lincolnshire. Here's the border. West Lindsey sign is over there and the arch is back over there. Time for me to move on to my next one here in West Lindsey. This has been the parish of Brocklesby, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.